Hello, everyone, and I welcome you all to today's exclusive Fireside Chat on From Coding to Composing and how developers are shaping the AI native enterprise. I'm your host, Khushi Mudgal, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. And I am honored to welcome our distinguished speaker for today's session, Mr. Lalit Wadhwa, EVP and CTO at Encora. He is a seasoned technology leader with over 25 years of hands on experience driving innovation at the intersection of cloud, data, AI, and platform modernization. As the CTO at Encora, he empowers engineering teams to architect scalable intelligent systems for the AI first era. Known for his pragmatic vision and technical depth, he champions engineer centric transformation, applying advanced analytics, predictive modeling, and digital engineering to solve real world enterprise challenges. He's also a frequent speaker on topics such as applied AI, cloud native design, and the evolving role of engineers in shaping the future of software. It's such a pleasure to have you, Lalit, here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kushi. Thank you for the invite. Good to be over here. Frankly, good to be back.
Yes, Lalit, likewise. And now about the session. In today's fast evolving tech landscape, as you see that AI is no longer an experiment, it has become an engineered reality. And developers are stepping beyond code to become the architects of intelligence, shaping how businesses think, operate, and scale. So, in this session, we'll uncover how developer led innovation is redefining the way software is imagined, built, and brought to life in an AI first world. We will also talk about how developers are engineering the future, orchestrating GenAI and agentic systems to create real world business impact. We'll also explore inclusive innovation where pro code, low code, and no code models are coming together to make AI development more open, collaborative, and scalable. And finally, we'll discuss how organizations are moving from developer velocity to enterprise composability, designing modular AI native architectures that evolve as quickly as the market itself. So it's time that we explore how developers today are not just coding, but truly composing the next chapter of intelligent innovation. So now, Lalit, without further ado, let's get started with the main segment that we've always been looking forward to. So to begin with, I would firstly like to ask you that as you've seen multiple waves of transformation from cloud to data to AI, what makes this AI native era uniquely transformative for all developers?
Yeah, it's a 10,000 foot question, Kushi, that I'll try to go ahead and at least provide a perspective on to begin with. And then I think it's very important to dive deeper into this question. So I
Yeah.
think a few things are very clear to everybody. The velocity of change is faster than what we saw with the cloud transformation late 2008, 2009, when the transformation started, or the data led transformation somewhere in the 2015, 2016, 2017 era, right?
Yeah.
The rate of change with AI, and especially with the after the advent or at least the introduction of LLMs, uh, is mind blowing. What you find over the last 3 years is it has become very apparent that AI will make a difference to every single role, every single job. It doesn't matter whether it's your job or my job or any developer's job, it is going to go ahead and make a difference. For you, things like content creation, right? The tools that you have available to go ahead and design content which engages your audience, which creates very frictionless experiences. uh, you did not have that power, or to go ahead and leverage that power, you had to go ahead and spend a lot of time and effort and money in designing those experiences. You can do them very, very rapidly now. On the software engineering side, including things that I need to do. 2.5, 3 years ago, we started with models which could go ahead and assist the programmers, right? So
Right.
that was phase one, that was stage one, and code completion was amazing. And we said, hey, 15, 20, 25% productivity gains are available. This looks amazing.
Yeah.
Came the second wave, which was everything related to agents, which basically are pieces of software that can, the best way to probably define it is they can go ahead and reason
Yeah.
based on the reasoning they can go ahead and plan, and based on the plan they can go ahead and execute, right? So it's far more than a chatbot.
Yeah.
And that's the first distinction that I think it's very important for our audience to understand. An agent and a chatbot are two significantly different things. Now, advanced chatbots absolutely can be powered by agents, right? But the chatbots that we are normally used to are not agentic in nature. So the second phase was all about agents. You would explain to an agent, you could use text, you could frankly use voice. You would explain to an agent what you're looking for. It will reason based on certain characteristics. You could go ahead and shift the backend models that are used to go ahead and reason,
Yeah.
and based on that reasoning, it would put together a plan of attack. It would share that plan of attack with you. You could be human in the loop. You could say, yep, I like this, let's move along. Or you simply may not be the human in the loop, and you give the agent complete autonomy to go ahead and execute that plan that they have built, and the agent goes ahead and executes that plan. And
Right.
all of a sudden, with this, the advantage that developers got was you could be working on task A while an agent could be working on task B. So all of a sudden, you could work asynchronously. You did not have to do everything in a very linear fashion, in a staged manner, one after the other. You could be working on one thing, your agent could be working on another thing.
Right.
And then in the current wave, Kushi, you are getting into a stage, imperfect at this point in time, but of course, with every single week, better tools are available, better reasoning is available, better frameworks and templates are available. But you're getting to a stage where multi-agent systems are becoming a reality.
Yeah.
And not only are they becoming a reality for software engineering, they are becoming a reality to go ahead and drive workflows in enterprises, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, take as an example, if you're an insurance company, you have multiple value chains within that insurance, end-to-end process. You could go ahead and build multi-agent systems which go ahead and address an entire value chain within an insurance company. And I'm just using insurance company as an example. It could be a retail company, it could be a supply chain and logistics company, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So now you have reached a stage where a developer can actually go ahead and fire up a crew of agents or an army of agents,
Yeah.
uh, be the orchestrator on top, or actually even have an orchestrator to be an agent, and
Yeah.
can run very complex tasks through that entire chain or that army of agents, right? And that is what is referred to as multi-agentic systems. The ability of a multi-agentic system to complete tasks is far more vast than what a single agent can do. The
Yeah.
amount of reasoning power, the amount of planning power, the amount of execution power in a multi-agentic system is far more than what a single agent can do.
Correct.
And while it seems, hey, this is a drag and drop, the fact is, of course, under the hood, it's still a very heavy engineering lift, right? So
Yeah.
the good thing is that now there are frameworks that are available. LangGraph, LangChain, probably being one of the most important ones. Those frameworks allow you to, or Autogen from Microsoft, those frameworks allow you to go ahead and manage things like agent to agent communication, right? If you have multiple agents working in a multi-agentic system, then you need the capability for agents to go ahead and exchange information with each other. You need to go ahead and have some degree of, actually, some intense degree of state management. You need to know
Yeah.
where every agent is in the current workflow. You need to understand what is it that it has learned over its interactions with the other agents. You need the ability to go ahead and drive observability and governance. You need to understand, you need to give identity to every single agent. You need to understand what did the agent discover, what did it execute, so that if you are trying to build an auditability and audit loop, you have the ability to look at all of this data and figure out what agent did what. And then, of course, you have to build integrations with LLMs. And in a multi-agentic system, you may not have one LLM at the back, and you may have a multitude of LLMs, each one of them very specifically fine-tuned to the kind of task that the agent is going to go ahead and deliver. So The complexity in a multi-agent system is still a very heavy engineering lift. That is something that at least I want to go ahead and share with your audience. It seems simple on front end, but when you are trying to orchestrate 30, 40, 50, hundreds of agents to drive through outputs, real outputs, it continues to be an engineering heavy lift. That is also the reason, Kushi, when we get into conversations around is the era of the developer over, the real answer is no. There is a lot of engineering lift that needs to be done, even in this multi-agentic systems. Yes, the role of the developer is going to shape up very differently. The skills required for the developer are going to be different, but there's still a very large engineering effort that is required. So that is what the journey from simple code completion AI tools to current generation of multi-agentic systems has been. It's been fascinating, but the kind of business outcomes that today you can go ahead and deliver vastly different from what you could deliver about 2.5 or 3 years ago. And remember, all of this innovation is in the last 3 years, right? So that is on one side, it's frankly bewildering. On other side, it's exciting, and I fully understand that there are possibly some concerns with the rate at which this train is moving. But at the end of the day, it's a very, very rapid shift for everyone, specifically for people in software engineering. So hopefully that gives a little bit of context to your question, as well as sets the stage for any follow-on questions you may have for me.
Yes, Lalit, this was definitely a great, head start for our conversation and discussion today. And just like you mentioned, the rapid pace at which all the multi-agents are evolving, and of course, we also have to keep up with that pace, but also at the same time maintain that balance. So from that comes my next question: that when we say developers are no longer just coding but composing, what does that shift practically look like inside the engineering teams today?
Yeah, and I think this is probably the most pertinent question for the developer community, because if there is a change that is happening, then the developer community has to respond to it, and of course, the developer community is responding to it. So, I think I'll also go ahead and weave in some discussion around what are those changes that every single developer, at least most developers, would need to go ahead and build into their own careers, their own learning paths, their own uh, upskilling as they move along. So here's what composability means, at a very high level, and then we will take it down to a granular level, very specific to what a developer does. At the end of the day, the idea of composability is, can you go ahead and build extreme degree of modularity into any design, right? It could be, frankly, it could be a house where you are able to take out one part of that entire architecture that you have built and insert something else. So modularity is the key part of a composability. Now, why do you need composability? The reason that you need composability is in an ever-changing environment where business needs, where customer needs, how customers define value, all of that is shifting at such a rapid pace. If you do not have composability, your ability to respond to your customer needs goes down dramatically, in the sense that it becomes a very slow process, because then uh, you have to fine tune every single process to go ahead and deliver that change that the customer is demanding. Change management within a company becomes very, very tough at that point in time. And so at the end of the day, the idea behind composability is, with speed, lowest cost, can I go ahead and deliver what my end client is asking for, so that I can have the most frictionless experience for the end client. That is the core concept behind modularity, or what we refer to as composability. On the face of it, they sound similar. There's a little bit of difference between the actual meaning of composability and modularity, and we will just get into that discussion. So imagine, uh, in the software engineering world, there is a need to go ahead and, as an example, build out a software that achieves a particular end outcome, an end goal, right? And the typical way that we go ahead and start with this entire thing is, bring together the business people who understand what the end goal is to be. You go ahead and understand, at least in a descriptive fashion, uh, what is it, what's the starting point, what's the end point, what are the inputs available, what are the outputs that would be need to be generated. You transition all of this into some sort of a technical document. To achieve the outcomes of the technical document, you build out epics and story points. Then you build in agile teams who go ahead and attack those story points, and they build it out in an iterative fashion. Some people build it out, they probably also test it out, goes through an iterative process, and then uh, ultimately gets through the CI/CD pipeline, gets deployed, and so on and so forth, right? The ability, now take this through the composability window, the ability of a developer to take any piece of code which is, let's say, partially written, poorly documented, first document it, then understand it, then go ahead and finish it, then write the test cases for it, then convert those into test scripts, and with a human in the loop, go ahead and give a final look to it before you go ahead and deploy it. All of that can be built as a series of series of uh, activities or tasks. This is where agents came into play. Now, if you take this concept a bit further, based on what we just discussed in the last question, you could have different agents doing different things in this value chain, as a result of which you achieve what is called as asynchronous coding, right? So now you have an army of 5 different agents, each one of them. Some of them are building out story points. Some of them are testing those story points as those are getting built out. Some of them are going ahead and setting up those story points for user acceptance testing, so on and so forth. Some of them are fixing bugs that were there in the last story point based on continuous testing. So now you have the ability, the developer has the ability using multiple agents to go ahead and fire them up and do multiple different tasks at the same time, thereby achieving very significant boosts in productivity. Right now, bring it to an agentic system era, the conversation that we were again having in the last part. You could actually have an orchestrator which is smart enough, and for purposes of this conversation, that orchestrator could be a human, or actually could be even an agent, which understands the end goals, which understands the inputs, which understands the coding styles that the company or this organization has, which understands the context, how value gets created, and is able to go ahead and do all the tasks that we just discussed all by itself autonomously. And of course, human in the loop somewhere, wherever it may be required, but largely autonomously. Again, in an asynchronous fashion with different agents doing different things at the same time. So now you have achieved what is referred to as agentic coding end to end. You can start with a definition of a problem that you want to go ahead and solve, and you can end up with code that is fully deployed or deployable on whatever assets or infrastructure your firm has. However, composability for a developer in a vertical industry is probably going to be a little bit more complex and probably going to be a lot more important as we move along. And I think it's very important to go ahead and pay a little bit more attention towards composing value chains and the ability of developers to understand what they're composing when it comes to the vertical value chains. Vertical value chains basically say, here is what I have, here is what the customer desires, this is how I'll go from point A to point B. So as an example, let's try to illustrate this. Take in the insurance industry what is called as FNOL, and it stands for First Notification of Loss. You have an insurance policy, let's say it's an automobile insurance policy. Unfortunately, you run into an accident. You have to call up your insurance company. There is somebody on the other end who takes details from you and then begin a series of manual steps or even automated steps today, which are things like Mr. Customer, are you in the coverage area? My insurance policy only covers certain states, doesn't cover the entire country. Uh, did you make the last payment? Because if you did not make the last payment, then your insurance policy is probably invalid. Frankly, at some point in time, early on in the conversation, the agent also makes a determination, are you even a customer of mine? The agent also makes a determination, do you have the right policies? You may have an automobile policy or accident. You had an accident while you were riding a motorbike, two different policies, right? All of those decisions are being made by humans or some degree of automation. Now, if you want to go ahead and build a multi-agentic system, if a developer wants to now go ahead and build out a multi-agentic system that understands this workflow, it is very apparent that the developer needs to understand the workflow. And therein is the single largest opportunity, and I think the single largest challenge for the developer community today. Developers by nature have largely focused, rightly so, on the horizontal part of the entire software engineering, which is, here are the set of technologies, here is how we will go ahead and extract value from them, here is how we are going to go ahead and deliver a software to the customer that meets the customer's need. They have rarely focused on what happens in the customer's business, right? Or in the company's business. Until unless you understand that, this vertical orchestration, vertical agentic systems, agentic systems which power vertical value chains will be difficult to tackle. So, when we started the conversation, we said, yeah, there is going to be some degree of change in a developer's role as you move along. This is precisely the change that developer community and the developers have to focus on. From being expert on the horizontal engineering, they will have to start understanding in separate industries, in different industries, in different value chains in every single industry, what actually happens. How does information flow? What decisions need to be made? How does value actually get extracted? What is the client looking for? Because if you're unable to go ahead and understand that, building out this agentic system will become very, very tough for you. Your ability to go ahead and design great systems, your ability to go ahead and architect great systems, frankly, your ability to go ahead and even conceive what needs to be done in that vertical value chain, industry value chains will become very tough. And you will need certain degree of expertise in the vertical value chain before you can go ahead and drive agentic composability or configurability in those value chains. So that is a shift that developers have to take. It is directly linked to agentic systems powering not only horizontal value chains, but also vertical value chains. Uh, and it's frankly, it's not a very easy shift to make, but it will have to be made. I'm very sure developers will get there. Many of them have started working on it. But that's a very significant shift, Kushi, that I think we are going to see in the developer community.
And Lalit, that's a great way and a great perspective that you've just shared because it couldn't be explained in a better way, I have to say. And definitely, this shift which the engineering teams need to address and also undergo would be very beneficial with your key points that you just mentioned. So, which makes us transition to our next question that uh, requires me requires you to tell me that how are developers orchestrating the Gen AI and agentic systems to deliver real world business outcomes, but not just the prototypes.
Right. So I think the under the question that you have asked me is a sub question, I think, and the sub question is, how do you go ahead and define value? When you are going ahead and building out all of these systems. So uh, remember, Kushi, the value can only be defined if you have a baseline available. The problem with most engineering organizations is that many a times the baseline is not available. So you start bringing in AI code completion tools, phase one, then agents, phase two, agentic systems, phase three. And everybody is extremely excited about bringing in all of these tools, these systems, new knowledge, new ways of working, new outcomes. But the question on the table, as most people go ahead and refer to, is where is the ROI? And the problem with all of that is because you do not have a baseline, you really cannot go ahead and say, this is where I was, this is where I am, this is the gain that I have gone ahead and achieved. Now, when you look at phase one, largely code completion, the idea was all about productivity. I was able to go ahead and complete 5 story points last week. This week, I was able to go ahead and complete 6.5, right? Or something of that sort. And that became some sort of a measurement, some sort of a metric to go ahead and say, yeah, code completion created some value for me. It was imperfect, but okay, it worked for most people. In the case of agents, along with the velocity of generating code or building out code, came the quality aspect. Because remember, in the case of agents, you could go ahead and have an agent independently go ahead and work on QA while you were working on code development, or an agent work on code review while you were working on code development, right? So the ability to go ahead and say, yeah, I produced the code faster, but it was also of higher quality because the number of defects that got passed on into the deployed code were far lower. Look where we were, look where we are. There's a difference between the two of them, and yeah, value got generated. I think as we are moving to the agentic systems, all of the benefits that we have discussed till now absolutely stay. In fact, there is a term that you'll find very interesting, which is generally referred to as the 100x engineer. The ability of engineers working with multi-agentic systems to go ahead and create new value at a dramatically higher rate compared to engineers who are not using it. The industry refers to these engineers as 100x engineers. And so all the benefits that we've discussed in phase one and phase two, they absolutely stay. But the power of the agentic engineer, the 100x engineer, or engineers who use the agentic systems is uh, not only the velocity, the quality, the cost, all of those are getting impacted. But what is beginning to happen is that you are beginning to go ahead and insert AI into the applications in a native manner. Now, there is a reason all of this is happening. I think this reason is generally overlooked. See, moving from the era that was there pre 2023, where most of the code was generated in IDEs by humans, to code completion, and now to AI native systems, requires a complete mindset shift. How you work with these tools, to go ahead and explain to these tools what are the outcomes you're looking for, how do you consume that output, it requires a very different personal change management. It requires our own mindsets to shift. You'll find those who have made that transition are able to go ahead and become the 100x engineers, and those who are unable to go ahead and make this transition despite the availability of tools are not able to make the transition to the 100x. So I think one of the challenges that every single engineer is going to go ahead and face is, I wouldn't call it unlearning what they have learned, but a complete radical modification of, in terms of understanding, what does AI first and AI native actually mean? Because if you truly understand the meaning of AI first and AI native, your starting point in any journey becomes very different compared to what it would have been if you do not understand what AI first and AI native means. I think it's going to be a little bit of struggle for most people. I see day in and day out where people at uh, clients that we serve, frankly, people at our own company too. There is no overnight fix to this. It's a case of people beginning to appreciate the power of AI. It's a case of people beginning to understand that they can do higher value added tasks rather than hang on to the tasks that they were doing for the last 10 years. It's the value of understanding what the tools are trying to go ahead and do, and let them go ahead and do the work that they are best at doing, and you moving on to much more valuable tasks from your own personal perspective. Those are ideas that are not, I mean, they sound simple. They are complex ideas because they involve personal change management. And I think that is the single largest challenge people are going to hit as they try to become truly AI native in the software engineering world, doing both horizontal value chains as well as the vertical value chains.
Yes, Lalit. And the way that you reiterated about mentioning that these business outcomes and all about the prototypes and how the orchestrating actually works with the current AI native world is definitely something that, of course, we've been looking forward to. And which makes us transition into our next question, which is that what helps teams move from these AI experimentation to building production grade and scalable AI systems? And any learnings from your work at Encora which you'd like to share?
Sure. So I think some of the simplest, you know, uh, points Kushi over here is a shift in the narrative. So remember, uh, phase one of the AI systems, everything was about sprint velocity. Uh, Quality was secondary. People used to complain the quality is not what I can go ahead and generate. Many of those things have been fixed. But the narrative was I am able to go ahead and improve the sprint velocity. The narrative today is that I'm able to create composability. Some people call it symphony, which is I have AI components. Some people actually refer to these components as microservices, and I think it's a very fair term. I have the ability to orchestrate uh, these small AI microservices into larger, more meaningful tasks. I have the tools. I can use containers and Kubernetes for orchestration. I have the ability to go ahead and do edge deployment too. And some of the best developer minds have basically moved to a position which basically says composability isn't optional. That is the only path to outpacing disruption. Because if you do not have composability, your ability to go ahead and forget leading the disruption, but your ability to go ahead and uh, prevent disruption in your own space is going to be negligible. So I think most of the leading developers have figured this out. That is what they are, focusing on. Now the fact remains, Kushi, that there is a combination of tools and frameworks that are available to you, some focused on some very different tasks, different scenarios, different value levers, and some of them a little bit more generic. I think one of the when you introduced the session, you talked about things like pro tools and no code tools and low code tools. All of them are valuable. For certain, let's say, quick POCs, uh, you absolutely want something which can be a drag and drop, right? You want to figure out very very quickly, does it go ahead and generate the outcome that I'm looking for? From a customer perspective, I can absolutely tell you two or three things which where this gets manifested. Customers used to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and do a proof of concept in 12 weeks. Today, the proof of concept window is probably 12 days, if not lower, right? So look at the expectation, how the expectation that the client has been reset. And of course, the clients are expecting you to go ahead and use all the modern tools, the modern frameworks that are available to achieve that acceleration that the customers are looking for. Another manifestation of all of this is customers used to go ahead and build agile pods. They had some size, let's say a pod of 8 people, a team of 8 people, scrum team of 8 people. If you look at an average across any company today, frankly, or let me say most companies today, you will find that the average size of the pod has decreased by 20 to 30% over the last 3 years. It's an impact of how customers now expect that AI will be able to accelerate velocity while maintaining the quality of whatever is being built. Another manifestation of this entire cycle is, uh, or all of these tools are that customers expect you to now go ahead and uh, address something that used to take or used to cost $100,000 as an example 3 years ago, uh, at a much more discounted price. Uh, and it's not that the customers are not willing to pay for the effort that people are investing. The customers are basically messaging that AI tools, along with humans, the combination of the two, should be able to go ahead and deliver it faster with higher quality at a lower cost. right? So the customer demands are shifting in a direction which says improve the velocity, improve the quality, lower the cost, uh, all of them at the same time. Now, to achieve all of this, there are a variety of tools available, variety of again, pro code, low code, no code systems available, and you have to pick the right one for the right outcome that you're looking for. In certain cases, there is a thinking which says, hey, if it's an enterprise application, do not use no code or low code, right? And I think that's a little I think it's a little unfair, because the right tool chosen for the right purpose, whether it's an enterprise production grade application or a task, absolutely can go ahead and serve that. But the right choice of the right tool for the right task is probably the most important determination. I think it's also very important that in most enterprises today, businesses have access to many of these low code, no code tools, and they have the ability to go ahead and construct whatever they want as an outcome using certain workflows, using those tools. Now, in an agentic era, almost every company, Khushi, I think, will end up in a world where they will have a governed platform, a platform on which security is guaranteed, compliance with the company's policies are guaranteed, traceability, auditability, all of them are built in. On top of which, the company has built hundreds of agents, each agent doing something. And then there is an orchestration framework for people to go ahead and use these agents to build outcomes. This agent plus this agent plus this agent plus this agent. If I go ahead and attach all of them, I will go ahead and get my outcome. I think every company in the agentic era will build or buy such a platform. And that is how business users are going to go ahead and transform the value chains. They're going to drive their own objectives using these platforms on which agents operate in a very secure, governed, uh, governed and a compliant manner. I think that is the world we are moving to. So the no code platforms, which business or citizens users, as we used to call them, uh, they operate on, I think they are going to shift into platforms on top of which agents are working. And of course, the agents are going to use different tools. Agents, as an example, may go ahead and call up an Excel file or reach out to an Excel file where there is some data, extract that data, work with that data, send that data back into the same Excel file or to another place. But all of those workflows will be composed by business users who will have access to these agentic platforms. I think that's a transformation that we are moving towards, uh, including Encora. At this point in time, we have our own platforms. We are building platforms for many of our clients, but the goal is, can we build something on top of which hundreds and hundreds of agents produced by the company and frankly produced by third parties, which can be accessed through these platforms, can be leveraged to build composable enterprises, composable workflows, composable engineering.
Right, Lalit. And this was a very, unique way of also putting out the information about the pro code, no code, and low code models that are coexisting currently. So, if you would like to tell us something that how organizations can create a more inclusive and participatory innovation culture without compromising on technical rigor with these pro code, no code, and low code existing, then what would you like to tell us?
Yeah, I think a couple of points, Kushi, that we discussed were, I'll just repeat them. Things like low code, no code is just for prototypes. I think it's stretching the truth a little far. I think that there are sometimes concerns related to there's a viewpoint that there are risks that come with allowing the non-experts to build AI. Frankly, if we do not cross that gap at this point in time, no company will ever have enough amount of talent pool to build every single workflow that they want to go ahead and build with AI inserted into the workflow in an AI native manner. So yeah, we have to let the non-experts go ahead and build with AI. Frankly, that is AI is the greatest enabler for allowing non-experts to build using AI. I think there are questions around upskilling is too slow, upskilling is not working. I think every company has to find a solution to it, to go ahead and take a viewpoint that uh, our teams are uh, you know, the population of the employees within the company is not ready to adopt AI at this point in time. I think these are things that absolutely everybody has to overcome. There is no recourse around it. I think it's very important to understand that if empowerment has to be driven, and we'll use the platform as an example that we just talked of, where people can go ahead and build workflows, then somebody has to go ahead and set the guardrails, right? So governance has to be there, security has to be there, identity management has to be there. Those are all given, and that's what good platforms do. So the guardrails have to be done so that others can compose on top of those well architected platforms. I think the benefits have to be extremely clear with each of these tools or platforms that we are discussing over here. Uh, if a sales team wants to go ahead and build, as an example, we're just using an example over here, something like a lead scoring AI. They have two options. They can either put it into the IT queue and wait for no one knows how long, or they can go ahead and leverage one of these platforms that you referred to, low code, no code, or even these agentic platforms that we are discussing, to go ahead and at least do 10x faster prototyping. So those kinds of benefits are extremely clear. People need to understand them. Decision makers need to understand them. I think we also need to understand that there is a new there's an overall new design language which is beginning to emerge. And frankly, this is another subject that gets usually shifted under the rug when agentic systems and agentic AI is getting discussed. And what I'm referring to over here is uh, the developer uh, the developer role is going to shift upstream as well as downstream. Now, what does upstream mean? Upstream means, as we have discussed, systems engineering, architecture, the ability to understand the industry value chains. These are very important upskill tasks, because if you don't understand them, you cannot go ahead and construct a system. And then there are some downstream tasks that the developers will also shift to. Some of the developers will also go ahead and shift to. And these are tasks like I'll build the platform on top of which agents are going to go ahead and work. I'll go ahead and build the guardrails which will and I'll ensure that ethical data sets are used for the right grounding. That I'll ensure that bias does not creep in into the data sets, or I'll find tools to go ahead and cancel out that bias. Or things like I will go ahead and ensure at these points in the entire workflow, human in the loop is mandatory. That human in the loop is the only way to go ahead and cancel or minimize bias that emerges out of AI models. So those are all things that absolutely will need to get addressed, some upstream, some downstreams. We are going to see over the next few years shift in capabilities of our developer community, many of them moving upstreams, many of them moving upstream, many of them moving downstream. But those are things that I think we should be aware of, that there is a complete change in how uh, the developer context, the developer behavior, the developer responsibility, these things will go ahead and get addressed. How would explainability happen? How would auditability happen? How would bias cancellation happen? There are some invisible choices that every developer is going to, or actually is making today. What's the prompt that has been written? Has that prompt been audited? Is that prompt within the guardrails? Uh, does the whatever you're trying to do has enough context been provided? Do you understand how the model was fine-tuned, the underlying model, how was it fine-tuned? Do you understand the evaluation metrics that were used to go ahead and rank this model? uh, these are all embedded ethics. These are things that most developers today do not bother to talk of. These are going to become extremely important as you move along. So that's the reason the tools, the behavior, the context, the ways of working, the mindset, it's a combination of all of those that will shift. Frankly, it has started shifting, and that is what I think the developer community has to focus on. It's a very vast field in which developers can choose their own path, where to go ahead and play based on their own interests. Frankly, from my perspective, when I get into these conversations where, the conversation is what's next for developers, will they even have a role? And my counter to that is, my gosh, developers have never had a better time than what they have today, because of their ability to go ahead and take their skills in multiple dimensions and directions, rather than a single dimension and direction, which was software code generation.
Yes, absolutely, Lalit. And definitely there's, a pool of, counterparts and enterprises that the developers can actually, learn from and accordingly decide their particular action that they want to put in for pursuing everything that is, coming forward nowadays. And now, as you just mentioned, that the conversation is shifting from developer velocity to enterprise composability. So, how do you see the modular and AI native architectures actually redefining the speed and adaptability per se?
Yeah, again, let's take an example, Khushi, to go ahead and make this a little bit more real, right?
Yeah,
Uh, take KYC, something that everybody understands. You you want to open up an account with a bank, you get a form, you go ahead and fill that in. It gets back to the bank.
yeah,
Somebody checks, are all the critical fields filled in, the optional ones, let's leave them aside. Somebody then approves it. It moves to the next stage. Somebody, there's an approval signature on top of it. Then it probably, either through some degree of automation or through manual labor, gets ingested into some sort of a system, a computer system.
yeah,
Data out of that form that you just filled in gets extracted out of that form. And then you are eligible for establishing an account at the bank. And then, there are certain services that are attached to the account that you just opened up. And that information then flows probably to a central authority. It could be the headquarters of that bank. The
yeah,
bank is then expected to go ahead and share that information with the central bank of the country. Uh, and there is a complete workflow from the time you decide to open up an account to the time you get enabled on that bank's infrastructure.
yeah,
Today, you can build up that entire value chain using
yeah,
a cohort of agents, a swarm of agents, or an army of agents, a multi-agentic system to do that entire job, right? So imagine how quickly you exterminate the friction out of the entire process, right? So today, you fill in the form, an agent can ingest that form into a computer system. Agent number two can go ahead and extract the right information uh, from that ingested form. Agent number three can verify, does it meet the banking norms. Agent 4, if the form is incomplete, can throw back an email and say, nope, Mr. Customer, refill this. I don't have enough information. So it can send it back to the customer. Agent 5, if the form is complete, can put it into a central database. Agent 6, based on whatever you have filled in the KIC form, can attach certain services to your account. This is your credit card limit. This is your home mortgage limit. This is your personal loan limit. This is your automobile loan limit. We will give you a credit card. We will give you a debit card. All of that, right? So all the services, another agent number 6, can go ahead and attach to that particular client. Agent number 7 can go ahead and transition or transfer that information across the bank's infrastructure to the headquarters, across all other places where it needs to go ahead and shift that information. Agent number 8 can move that information into the central banking authority, of the country. Agent number 9 immediately gets to see, hey, customer X has gone ahead and opened up an account, start sending you personalized offers. Mr. Customer, glad to know that you've just opened that account. uh, here's a credit card, here's your debit card, these are your limits, can I help you with an auto finance loan, and so on and so forth. Builds deep personalization because it now understands, based on the past history, what the customer is looking for. Agent number 10 probably learns from all of this and establishes a chat session, online chat session through WhatsApp with this particular client, this particular customer who's put in his phone number onto that KYC form. So imagine the amount of friction that you're taking out of the entire process by making it agentic. And now there's a new regulation, or the bank decides I want to go ahead and change this entire workflow. Your ability to change that workflow is superlative, because all you have to do is to either retrain the agent that's in the workflow or remove that agent, plug in another agent, and the workflow now changes, right? That is the composability part that we are referring to over here. That is how friction and experiences will get refined. That is how institutions, banks, organizations, and firms, they will achieve composability. The ability to very, very rapidly uh, change your value proposition in response to a customer demand at speed that we could only think of but could never execute on is the power of the agentic world. And that is why there is so much of excitement around what agentic world brings to the table. This is just one example. In the bank, a bank has 20, 30 other value chains. An insurance company has another 30 value chains, right? A transportation company has another 30 value chains. So imagine the amount of positive disruption that can be created in this ecosystem using modularity, using composability, using agentic systems. And that is the promise with which this entire journey continues for most people.
Yes, Lalit, and that's a very beautiful way to put that, how modularity and composability are actually, changing the whole landscape for all the techies. And definitely this makes us move to our last question for today, that what is finally that one key skill or mindset that you think that every developer should cultivate to stay relevant and lead in this AI first era?
It's the toughest question, Kushi, because I don't believe there is one solid answer, right?
Right.
Uh, so let me reframe. I don't believe that there is one thing that the developer community has to do. I think that there's a multitude of things that developer community has to do to transition to the next era.
Okay.
See, some of these things are straightforward. You have to these are hard facts, right? You have to understand uh, the new generation of systems. You have to understand how are agentic systems built, how do they create value. You have to acquire skills related to the verticalized industries. You have to understand what value chains are there, what value chains you want to focus on, what are the nuances of those value chains, so on and so forth. So understanding those upstream and downstream tasks that we talked of, and what skills are required to execute those, train yourself, all of that absolutely is important. But then there are things which are, I think, unspoken and probably, in my opinion, a lot more important than the hard ones that we have discussed.
Okay.
See, soft skills are going to become far, far more important than what developers today think that they are, right? Because today, most developers, not all, most developers work in a cocoon where, or a slightly secluded environment where the amount of interaction that they have with the person for whom they are creating value is very limited, with the business is very limited, right? They are on their laptops, they are thinking hard, they are in flow, they are building great software, so on and so forth. And so soft skills, because you don't practice them, they end up suffering over a period of time. How do you break out of that mold? I think is challenge number one for the developer community. They have to work on it in a proactive manner, because you do not attain soft skills all by yourself. They are things that you practice, because of which you get to where you need to get to. I think the power of making ethical decisions with very low bias or the ability to understand where bias can creep in, how it needs to be cancelled, the ability to identify the fact that bias could creep in. These are softer factors that no developer, frankly, has ever had to pay attention to. Remember, software is deterministic in nature, right? It's very logical. What you ask it to do, it will go ahead and do. But when you bring in LLMs, it is non-deterministic. There is a reasoning capability. That reasoning capability, given the input conditions, same input conditions may end up generating slightly different outputs. Some outputs may create a bias. And how do you go ahead and build those guardrails so that the bias does not get transformed into customer engagement, customer interaction, customer experience is a skill that developers will need to understand. Because if they don't understand it, they will be unable to prevent it. So I think it's a very important skill that they will have to go ahead and build. I think
Yes.
to me, the most important thing is the mindset shift that is required from a large portion of the developer community. Pieces of it we discussed during the conversation. How do you get to an AI first mindset? Frankly, what does an AI first mean? An AI first does not mean you have a software and now you start bolting AI on top of it. An AI software means you wipe the slate clean. And if you had the tool on day number one, how would you build out? If you had all the agentic tools on day number one, how will you build out anything that you want to build today? You will find you will build it out in a dramatically different fashion, right? So the AI first mindset, AI native mindset, all of those are very subtle changes, but very important changes because I think those are going to drive some of the future successes and unfortunately some of the lack of future successes with the developer community. So I don't think so this is perfect, but if I was to go ahead and try and prioritize these, the ability to go ahead and uh, work on your soft skills, the ability to go ahead and create an AI first, AI native mindset, and the ability to go ahead and learn the technical skills required to work with agentic systems and the orchestration that's required, which we discussed, is still a very heavy engineering lift. I would rate them in that priority, with the first one being probably the most important. So I know it is imperfect, but at least in my mind, I wanted to share that technology does not come first. It is the other skills that generally are missing that come first. For most developers, the technology, frankly, is going to be the easy piece. That's what they have been doing their entire career. So they don't have to worry about the technology piece. They will absolutely catch up with that.
Yes, Lalit, and that's really some amazing key points and action points that we all can, look forward to moving with this rapid pace in this fast evolving AI native first world. And you've really put everything so, like briefly and also very in such a way that definitely will help all of the developers to frame their next further steps and also evolve in this era. And definitely this is going to be a session where they will learn that these are some points where the most important significant aspects also need to be taken care of at the right amount of pace and with the right amount of balance of it as well. So, with that, we finally wrap up this truly insightful fireside chat on from coding to composing and how developers are actually shaping the AI native enterprise. For this, a heartfelt thank you to you, Lalit, for sharing such valuable insights, experiences, and forward looking perspectives. And your thoughts have really shed light on how developers are actually evolving from writing code to truly creating impact, balancing speed with responsibility, and also combining the technical depth with the human intent. You've helped us see how collaboration, creativity, and composability are redefining the developer's role in this AI native era, and not just building the smarter systems, but also shaping the technology that connects, empowers, and transforms at scale. So it was an absolute pleasure having you with us, Lalit, and thank you once again for being a part of this engaging and thought provoking session.
I enjoyed the conversation, Kushi. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the invite. Looking forward to the next conversation at some point in time.
Definitely, Lalit. It's always a pleasure hosting you and listening from you, your perspectives and your viewpoints, because that really help us shape our next vision for for the next quarter that is coming forth. And to everyone tuning in, thank you for being a part of this conversation. Stay tuned for more such conversations from TechGig. Until next time, take care and keep innovating.
Thank you.